Welcome, everybody. I'm Cindy Myers, and tonight's webinar is going to be on sacred contracts and relationships. Since it's February and that the month of Valentine's Day, and relationships are all about us. So, what the heck? I don't think we've had this topic before in this way, so we'll give it a whirl. So if you have any, would like to know more information about my services or what I do, you can check out my website at yourenergyhealer.com. And let me do it this way. Well, my website is, or my computer is running a little slow, so bear with me. Before we get going into the meat of the webinar, if you're having a medical emergency for yourself or for a pet, please either call 911, your doctor, or your vet. But what I can do for you is provide energy support so that your own natural healing abilities can be optimized while you're dealing with a medical issue. Let's get into the topic. So sacred contracts, what the heck are those? So I don't know if you know about them or not. There's a really good book by Carolyn Mays that's called Sacred Contracts. If you'd like a lot more details, she's a lot more of an expert on it than I am, but it's what I understand of it. Before we get incarnated, if you believe in that sort of thing, we kind of choose the issues we want to come down and deal with. And then, in order to deal with those issues, we need to have life experiences to help us resolve them, right? So the powers that be decide and lay out the different types of people that need to participate in our life to either help us heal those issues, support us in healing them, or help in a backhanded way in helping us heal them. They push our buttons to make the issues rise up, to bubble up into the surface so they can trigger us or help wound us so that we can then work on the inner wounding, the deeper wounding of healing that soul. It's a soul issue, in other words. So we have these sacred contracts, these agreements with other entities that persons or animals, it can be animals as well, that we interface with in helping us deal with these very soul deep issues that we want to make right, hopefully this life, or at least improve upon. And so some of these people that we may interact with can be very temporary, just a quick quick interaction relationship with them. It could be a very passing, informal kind of thing. Could be a good interaction. It can be a very bad interaction. Getting it's a yin and a yang thing. So they can be just temporary, passing through our lives, but not a long-term kind of involvement. And then there's major relationships. So the parents that we're given are definitely sacred contracts, whether they are very good parents and have done most of the things right and very supportive and loving and kind parents, or they can be difficult, challenging parents that we have to overcome their inadequacies in raising us. No judgment on that. It's because they do have contracts and what they're doing, but it's our contract. They lay that up because whatever issue they've dealt with or interaction with us is part of it. So, for example, my father passed away when I was 11. That I've come to understand was a sacred contract between us, and my sisters, of course, and my mother. But it was a sacred contract for me personally, in that I had to become an expert in grief and changing my life in a very great way because of that event. And so he had to leave at a very young age for himself and for me as well, in order to disrupt my life, in order for me to get back on track. So that is one an example of a sacred contract. And then the siblings, if we have siblings, those are too are part of that sacred contract. And then again, for me personally, animals, since I am very animals play such a huge role in my life, they too have had a big part in having a sacred contract. Different dogs, even like and cats, my barn cats, they definitely are part of that contract, and even just as importantly, my alpacas. I can tell you for sure, my life with them is definitely part of my soul contract. Some are more deeper relationships, again, passing types. And so I have a closer connection and bond, a deeper soul bond with a couple of my alpacas, whereas others, I love them, but they're not quite as deep, right? But they're all still, they play a different role. And then, of course, if anybody knows my story, had a arson fire that got me on the path of living in Oregon and having alpacas. And so the person that committed the arson was one of those sacred contracts. Don't ever want to have any interactions with that person again. He's not a nice person on this planet. But again, his contract was to come incarnate to be not a nice person and have no conscience and be capable of doing such a horrific act. And so it's sacred, right? Because it played an important role in my being exactly where I am now. If I didn't have that experience, I'm not sure I'd have alpacas or be living in Oregon and doing this work. So how can you say that wasn't something more sacred, right? To have that such a powerful event come through your life. So that person and I had a soul sacred contract together. So what attracts us in these sacred contracts, or how do we get attracted to each other? Let's put the parents and stuff that were born into it on the side, but because we're talking a little bit more as we have grown into adulthood. So how do those sacred contracts come about now that we're adults and we're attracting others into our lives? And if you're here, then we're probably trying to work on your becoming more your authentic self. And so how does that work? Or maybe you're feeling stuck or have a lot of anxiety and other issues. So those are all trigger points that that life, the world can be a sacred contract right now that we're living through, but also the interactions with with the people around us. They too can definitely be playing an important role in our lives in helping us come in to understanding ourselves better. So energy, and it all boils down really to energy. Everything in our world has energy involved. And so we can look at how we attract each other by looking at our energy and theirs. Okay, it's like acts like a magnet. We attract each other not only by having similar interests, and there's something favorable, hopefully, that is attractive to, that we get attracted to, that we find them, beautiful or handsome, or some sort of spark is happening. But also there's something in the wounding that we are attracted to. There's a magnet that we recognize in each other that's usually not conscious. You might, well, here's an example. I was talking to somebody once, and they were a widower, and I felt myself instantly more attracted to the person because why? Because he understood grief. he was intimately knowledgeable of grief because of his experience of losing his wife. And I wasn't conscious of that, but I could feel that pull almost instantly when I heard his story that, oh, here's somebody that would understand because I've had a lot of grief in my life. So that would be a magnet, right? That could draw people together is because of that wounding, that mutual wounding, and recognize each other. That would be something we'd have in common. But that also needed healing probably in each of our souls and in our contract with our own contracts and healing those areas. So what we would want to look at is what are our stories? What is some of the things that attracted to us? But then, if you are with somebody for a length of time, some of those things that would attract to us start irritating us because that mirror is now starting to rub us in the wrong way, and it's bothering us because it's easier to be upset with the others than looking at ourselves sometimes. So when we feel that upset happening and we're getting irritated with somebody, I always say, "Well, put up the mirror," because if something is really bugging you, it's probably because there's something inside of yourself that needs healing. It's like I used to tell my clients when I was counseling, if they were always blaming the other, like, well, when you're pointing a finger at somebody, there's three fingers pointing back at you. So whatever's going on could really be something going on inside yourself. So we want to take a look at that, because that's something we can handle and deal with more than trying to fix somebody else all the time, or being upset by the other person all the time. So how does these triggers work to get our attention? And well, it's all about fear. That's really talking about the fear brain. When we get triggered, we're talking about our fight or flight response system getting triggered, and it becomes reactionary. Okay, it's part of the wounding. If you talk about any of those emotions, like I said, grief, depression, anxiety, any of those issues you might be dealing with that need that soul contract that we are struggling with in a major way, or have participated or been a pattern, a trend in our life, um, those are all associated with the fear brain, that lizard brain. And it's very reactionary. So we immediately react in a certain way, but it's getting our attention because it becomes a habit. Hopefully that habit is getting our attention. If we only have it happen once, you're not going to think about it again once you get past it, right? It's going to constantly needle you. It's going to keep pointing you. It's going to keep pushing. Hey, I want your attention. I want your attention. I want your attention. Until we go, oh God, I can't stand anymore. What, I got to do something about it. So that's what, in this case, what the fear and the triggered brain is trying to do. It's really trying to get our attention to become more conscious of the pattern and to help heal that inner, deeper soul thing that helps us get on the right track, because it's really taking us off track. It's interesting that our life, if we kind of figure out what we want to heal, and then we put us onto this world, and then disrupt our life so badly so that we can get on track again. It's like, oh my goodness, it's very inefficient. But that's how life works. So it's just the hand we get to deal with as being human. So we have to play that hand out, right? So our job then, our purpose is to become more conscious and aware of those contracts. And so because those lead us to opportunities to heal those areas that will lead us to our more authentic self, and that heals those very deep wounds, those soul wounds. Okay. So how does it work for our emotions and our thoughts? When we get into those patterns and those habits, they keep replaying, right? And so emotions, really, we have all these thoughts every day, all the time, constantly. And for every thought we have, for every single thought we have, there's a chemical associated with it. Our master chef in our brain brews up this chemical, this cocktail, and then it courses through our body. And so every emotion has that. That's how we become a magnet, right? And attract the people around us, is that all these emotions have a frequency component. We vibrate out those emotions. And so emotions equals energy. And those emotions and that have those certain frequencies, we got to become aware of it. That's our goal, is to learn how to become more conscious of all those thoughts. Now you can drive yourself cuckoo if you think of everything you say every day and all that. But what we want to do is just kind of start assessing, well, how much of my thoughts today were stress related, fear-based related? Because if I have 90% of my day was spent in that area, man, am I vibrating out a ton of negative thoughts that are coursing through my body that just aren't They're very slow moving chemicals and they tend to get stuck in our body, especially if we're thinking about them that much throughout the day. So if we become conscious going, wow, that's a lot. I don't want to do that much. How do I change that pattern? How do I change those habits? So first step is just learning to become aware of in general, what are my thoughts throughout the day? Am I waking up anxious? Am I waking up, gosh, I felt so depressed most of the day. I just felt like I was moving through mud. Okay, so you have a general assessment that, okay, most of your day was just spent in that lower state. So being aware of that is important because what's happening then is if you're spending that much time in those more negative emotional state, again, fear is now running the show. Fear is making your decisions for you. And fear really only has several ways of handling situations or problem solving and making decisions. It wants to run away from it, it wants to fight it, or it wants to freeze. So if you find yourself in general in one of those three areas, those habits, if you feel stuck, okay, you can't move anywhere, you're frozen. If you get into a lot of conflicts, if you're fighting with a family member, or you're a spouse, children, work, if there's a lot of conflict all around you, then you're in the fight mode a lot of the time. And if you're avoiding, avoiding your problems. You have to do taxes coming up, and all of a sudden you go, oh, you know what? I think I need to go do my taxes, but you know what? Oh, yeah, I got to do dishes. Oh, and then my laundry. I better get my laundry, and oh, I better start vacuuming. And now I got to. You start doing this, that, and the other thing. That's run mode. Okay, you're running away from it, from dealing with what you first really wanted to said you needed to do, which was do your taxes. So you can be stuck and procrastinate and just freeze and just totally avoid it and not think about it. Or you can run away from it, or it just bugs you and you get mad all the time over it and start having fights with other people and other things around you because you're wanting to avoid dealing with the real thing at hand, which is the taxes. Or you can make it a more personal thing, the same thing. Okay. So let's go on. How do we quiet that fear mind? Okay. That's our goal, right? We want to quiet it down because again, it makes really one bad decisions. It doesn't make the wisest decisions. We want to get into our more thinking, conscious brain. So how do we do that when we're always triggered? If we're spending 80, 90% of our day in the fear and stress brain, how do we get out of it? So one, it's important to try and recognize that we are being triggered. That's first step. If you can do that, yay. Even if you can't pull yourself out of it, the more you recognize that you've been triggered, that's a positive, okay? Because that's key one. If you don't know you're being triggered, and it's really hard to tell. It really is, because it sounds like the same voice talking to us. Lizard brain has the exact same voice as my most conscious voice. They sound the same. So it sounds like it's making a good decision, but it isn't, because we're in a triggered brain. So recognizing it is really important. And so here's a quick little tip. I didn't write it down here, but if here's another way of recognizing if you're in the fear brain. If you say, I need to do something, I should do something, I could have, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? I need to do something. Those keywords are need. I need to do something. You're probably going right into lizard brain. Because if you're really if you need to do something and you're not doing it, you just were in triggered state. Okay, that's a really good way of telling yourself or identifying when you're in that triggered state. Listen to some of the words you're choosing to use. If you're saying, I need to do this, you probably just jumped into lizard brain, and it's very fast. So, so listen to your words, and then so that's probably your best bet right there. Just kind of listen to those keywords. Now, here's some steps on quieting the brain. So one of the first things we need to do is just breathe. We need to take time and take a couple minutes and slow your breathing down. Take slower, fuller breaths, and then add in some of the higher frequency emotions like gratitude. Gratitude's a nice, easy one. It's very high frequency. What we're doing now is triggering the calming system instead of the fight or flight one. By spending it takes at least 2 minutes usually to get those chemicals. Again, your master chef is every time you say gratitude, it's going, oh yeah, I like that word. I know what brew to make, and it's now coursing through your body. But it takes a couple of minutes of really flowing through and getting everything calmed down. So give yourself a couple of minutes to just breathe and add in something you're grateful for, or just say the word like a mantra, and that will help pull you out of that lizard brain. Okay, that will really help to slow things down. It'll interrupt it. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a little interruption so that you can access and engage your conscious mind. Now you can start making a lot better decisions and looking at things in a different way than how a lizard wants you to a lizard brain wants to see it. Okay, we can start listening more carefully. We can start listening to the other with maybe not being as reactive. So do this as often as you can. Every time you feel yourself being triggered, good time to do the breathing and adding in some gratitudes. And then, of course, by removing some of these trapped emotions that you've accumulated with all that stress and depression, anxiety, all those grief, all those emotions, if we can get rid of those ones, because again, they're really slow moving, they tend to get stuck in our body very easily. But by removing them, it's like taking the gas pedal off a little bit. So again, gives us a little bit of space so you're not as triggered as quickly. Oh, my screen just disappeared. Oh dear. I hope you're there. I don't know what happened there. Okay, we'll go here. We'll go. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so I wanted to put this chart up because I was just talking about the lower frequency emotions. And here you can see that on this chart, what I was talking about. So you can see the lower frequency emotions of guilt, grief, anger. They're very slow moving versus where love is this green one. It's much higher. It's logarithmically. Sorry, math. A lot of you probably don't like math, but it's much larger. It's not just a couple, 10 times larger. It's to the power of. So these are much stronger. Gratitude is actually higher than love. So it's up around joy and peace in that area up here. So I like to use peace and calm a lot. And when we tune ourselves tonight, I think we're going to tune to peace and calm for the healing circle. And I have a purpose for that. So you're welcome to stay on for that if you wish. But I would like you to remember this chart. So I'm going to open it up to questions. So again, before I go into the package that I'd offer, I suggest for helping get coached through some of this, because I made it sound really simple and it isn't. Getting into understanding our soul contract. I mean, if it was easy, we'd all do it. We'd just be really experts at it all and have all the solutions to it all. Being triggered is really hard. Understanding how to get to our authentic self is not easy either. The tools are easy to use, but learning how to use them and creating new habits when these habits have been created sometimes from even before birth, then it's a huge challenge to figure out how do we get there. So we all need a little coaching from time to time in helping us see. It's easier for somebody else to see the pattern sometimes for us, and we can hold a light on it and then guide you through it. And that's my role, my purpose in helping coaching you through that, and then coaching you how to use these tools specifically to your needs and helping you identify helping you find your way to your most authentic self. So by created this package that I call the full treatment coaching package. And what it does is it provides you, we have four 45-minute sessions where we really go into deep stuff, give you some real good coaching tips, specifically to you, tailored to your needs and where you're at right here, right now, and helping you on your path, get you unstuck. We clear trapped emotions. We do all sorts of stuff in helping you identify how to get closer to your more authentic self. And when you do that, you just feel this nice shift and you get just more solid. It's like you get way more grounded. The more we become closer to our authentic self, the more grounded, the more solid we are. And so we can face things a lot better because, man, we're well rooted because we just know who we are. It's when we're still not sure, we're still in that triggered state and in the wounded state, we still haven't figured out our soul purposes and soul issues very well, that we get knocked off our course much easier. So the more we get solid, the more we understand ourselves, the stronger and more confidence we have in moving forward with our lives. So some things that are coming up in events. Saturday, we're going to have a healing circle at noon Pacific time. And then next Wednesday, no webinar. We're just going to do a healing circle. And then the next Wednesday, we'll have an animal and emotions webinar. And I am taking one of the Saturdays off between the 16th and the 23rd. So there won't be a healing circle that Saturday, but there will be one on the last Saturday of the month. So with that, I guess we'll stop sharing. And if you have any questions or would like a clearing, we can get an example of some emotions removed so you can feel what that is. We can do that. We see that more people hopped on. Welcome everybody. But if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask away. Or if you would like a clearing, let me know. Anybody? Don't be shy. Or maybe that's your issue. I hear somebody unmuted.
Hello.
Hi.
If nobody has any questions, I would just like to know if there's any way that do we cut cords? Do we heal soul contracts? Like what exactly can we do? Because I just feel like I know in my body, I can just feel I have so much stuff still from my father. So I know there's a lot of stuff there because it just feels like, I can just feel it in my back whenever I just think of the situation, whatever.
Yeah.
But just, I don't know how to what do I do? Are we supposed to cut cords? How do you do that? How do I I don't know why it's still there, but I know that I can still feel it in my body.
Well, then that's a good indicator that we're not looking at it yet. You're not looking at it yet from the soul healing perspective, perhaps. So there needs to be something else learned, either about what exactly needs to be healed, and then once we understand that. Or what we might have to do first in understanding that is just get rid of some of the trapped emotions related to it so that you can look at it, because what fear is doing is going, no, okay. Because there's a lot of fear actually in then learning to become authentic, because it's like, oh gosh, now who do I blame? or this is scary. I don't know what's going to happen to me now. We in the wounding area, because we have lived it for so long, there's comfort in it because we know exactly the pattern that's going to play out. Even though it's uncomfortable, we actually know exactly what's going to happen and all the steps of it all, and then we'll be upset about it, but we know we come out of. That's how fear works, is like, well, if you follow this, you survive, you're still here. So we want you to stay in the safe zone. So that's why the habit is created in repeating the pattern. So what's scary is if I stop that pattern, I don't know what the new way is yet. And that's scary, is the unknown. And so where the coaching helps you is that you have that support system and help guide you through it.
It's almost like I just wish that you could just like, I don't know if the hypnosis or whatever, but just bypass it and just get right into the subconscious and just talk to it and tell it. Or is there a way to do that? I mean, to say, hey, like, you're okay, like, you're gonna be
Oh, well, we
fine. Like,
definitely talk about that. We definitely, that's, well, I actually listen to some of uh, certain books on audio at
Mhm.
night while I'm sleeping, because that talks right to my subconscious and
Okay.
bypasses the fear brain. But that doesn't change everything instantly, because I still have to change the habit.
Right.
But what it does is I do feel a shift because it's talked to the subconscious. The problem is I don't have the language yet. And that's where we need some of the coaching is we have to reframe and retrain our thinking and our thought patterns.
Right.
And lizard brain is going, well, but in our minds when we get triggered, and it just derails us. So that's that's the hard part, is talking ourselves down and going, no, that's not true. That's a lie.
Right.
This is the real
I
thing,
have to catch myself a lot. And then
right?
when it comes up, I'm like, no, that's, thank you for saying that, but that's not true.
That's not true. And then this is what the true piece is,
Right.
or at least where I'm headed, or where my intention is to get healing for. So mine lately is just to put in again peace. I just want a sense of peace. I just want peace. I want to
Right.
feel peace in my body. I just want to turn the volume down on everything. So it's reframing anything that gets triggered, that gets my energy up. I go, nope, stop that. That's not helping.
Yeah. And sometimes I,
Breathe. Gratitude, peace and calm. Now I can
right.
look at it differently and say, I don't need to be held by that thought pattern. This is where I really want to hit.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, good. Thank you.
So yeah. But it's great if we can get you triggered in the moment in a session, and then I coach you through it, because it's really hard to know when you're in a triggered state. But
Mm,
again, but if I can catch you in the moment, then I can stop you, help stop you in the moment, and then say, okay, breathe. Now look at it this way, and you can feel it in the moment. And then if we can do that successfully, the more you do it that way, then you let go of the other way, because that doesn't feel good. But in the
right.
meantime, right now, it doesn't feel good doing the new way, the new habit yet, because it's too scary. So having
Thank
somebody there with you, it makes it, have somebody hold your hand
right.
in the scary
Say it
spot,
is.
right?
That's
And
right. That does help.
and then once you do it a few times on your, then you have somebody help you a little bit. My goal is to help you in the moment and then teach you how to do it. And then you get to practice, and then you don't do it right a couple, or you don't quite do it the way you want yet. And then you come back and do another session, and then, but you get better and better at it. And pretty soon now it's like, and then what's great though, is that once you really get into the new habit, and I'm getting chills, so listen to this carefully. Once you get into the new habit, the fear one feels really uncomfortable when you get triggered and you go there again. And it's like you have a radar about you. So if anybody pushes that button, you go, oh no, I'm not going there again. No,
Right.
thank you.
Right.
No, thank you. And
Right.
that's when you know that you're on more solid ground, and you've healed
Okay.
us. That's when you know you've healed a big part and you shifted it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Karen.
Hi. Um, I have a friend that apparently I've triggered him because there's become more of feelings between both of us.
Mhm.
And he massively got triggered. I got triggered a little bit, but he hasn't done a lot of healing work. I've done a lot of healing work. I'm sure I still have a lot to do as well. But he massively got triggered, and to the point that what you call lizard brain, I call monkey mind. It's just same thing. Just it's like his way of doing fight or flight is making up all these other things, all these scenarios and all these things, and kind of projecting those onto me and saying, oh, well, you just want to live together. You just want to, and act. And I never even said any of that kind of stuff. And, and he's gone through different scenarios. And then finally, when he said something else about being obsessed or something, I just listened. I held the space. I just, whatever, because I knew it was just noise. It wasn't his heart. When he was done, I just said, you know what I'm really obsessed about? And I started going on about my speaking career and all the things that I'm doing and, and I swear after that, after I finished talking, I heard this sigh of relief and him talking to me in a completely different way. Like he felt safe again. Like he was putting what all this stuff meant, if he had feelings. And then all of a sudden it was like when I started talking and he found out what was real with me, it was just unbelievable. So I don't know if you have any feelings, thoughts. I'm just trying to work through it. I hope the friendship at least survives, and I don't know if anything else will, but the friendship is definitely really important to us and to both of us. And it's just,
Well, it sounds like you handle it actually pretty well if you could hold space and realize this person's triggered. So again, if somebody's in their fight or flight response system, you can speak as rationally and calmly as you want, but they're in that place where they either want to fight you or so
yeah,
you can just breathe and try. And so to me, that's when it's really important to stay in the peace and calm yourself. It's like, okay, I'll listen to a certain point, or I have to take a break and count, get our breath work coming. And then we come back and talk about it. But it sounded like by letting him get that energy out for a little bit, then he could hear you and you could now talk to him
right.
with what really was going on. And he actually heard you. So
did.
to help somebody else is to stay in your grounded state and put up your shields, surround ground shield, so they're not, it's bouncing off you. You don't have to absorb it, but it's like surround ground shield. And then I tune myself as best I can now to peace and calm, peace and calm, peace and calm. And I might put my hands over my solar plexus so it's not going into me that way, or little tools and tricks not to absorb that energy that's coming in from somebody else.
I needed that reminder tonight for everything that's going
And
on.
then just kind of breathe again. But I want to tune myself to peace and calm, because now you're transmitting that out, and that has a better chance of helping the other person calm down too. I see it all the time with my animals. If my males are fighting, because they're really the testosterone, they like to fight. Sometimes male energy is more reactionary at sometimes.
Right.
So are we females too, but I see that a lot with my male alpacas, at least, that they will go into conflict mode and fight. If they get triggered and fear gets triggered, they actually fight each other. So by me going, when I see it in the moment happening, I put out an energy of peace and calm, and they stop fighting 9 times out of 10. So that energy that you transmit out can help calm them down. And if you're breathing fully, that if you yawn, other people yawn. If you breathe more fully, they unconsciously see it and reminds them to breathe. Because when we're triggered, we breathe more shallow, even more shallow than normal. So those are some important things to do. It's not easy because you're in that energy and you're picking up their energy of conflict. So try and ground yourselves and remind yourselves peace and calm, shields up, all those things, and then send it out, peace and calm, until they settle down. Now you have a better chance of hopefully having them hear you. And he did hear you because he shifted, right?
Blown away by it because I did.
And now you can talk about how important the relationship is. You can go deeper. You can feel safer about sharing those feelings.
Yeah, because I mean, when he it was literally a sigh of relief, and his tone changed with me and everything. It wasn't. It was like,
it feels safer to talk to him. Yeah. Now you can go. This is when you can heal or go become even more intimate with each other, because you get past that lizard brain stuff. Now you can talk from your heart, from your conscious, from your soul, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's all we've ever done. We just reconnected after many, many years. And when we get together, we've had such amazing conversations that I completely never would have expected.
And you can admit, I'm being triggered right now. Hang on, because lizard brain just took over.
Yeah, I
If
know.
you can admit that to somebody,
Uh-huh.
that's huge too. And then they can at least understand that, hold on, let me try. And you can model then how to calm yourself down. You say, you know what, I just got triggered. Hang on. I need to calm down for a second. Otherwise, I'm going to perceive whatever you're telling me from the wrong
Right.
perspective. I'm probably not hearing you accurately.
Right.
So just give me a couple minutes. I've got to breathe and kind of meditate for 2 seconds, 2 minutes, and slow myself down. Then I might have a better chance of hearing you more accurately. And if you have a good partner that's willing to hear that, they'll work with you. Now you can support each other in helping yourselves through triggered states. And that's when you deepen the relationship. So you can go from being the sacred contract of causing the catalyst to trigger each other into going into a more a deeper relationship, because you don't have to always, you can feel safe in being honest with each other where you're at. See, that's the whole problem, is we don't feel safe with talking to people. We maybe don't have the language yet, but we don't, we get triggered, then we don't want to share why we're triggered because we don't want to feel bad. Blah, blah, you have lots of excuses on why we don't want to be honest with them. And most of the time it's just because we don't want to feel that vulnerable sharing something that's intimate, because we don't trust them that they'll hold the space for us, right?
Yeah.
And we don't trust ourselves. And that's the key, because it shouldn't matter if they do or not. It's just being totally honest with yourself then. And if you
No,
have full integrity with yourself, then again, the more authentic we are, you can have a conflict with somebody and okay, it doesn't bother you as much because you know yourself so well.
no, we've just been really good friends. That's just palling around as friends and having wonderful, beautiful conversations. And then feelings started showing up more. And that's when he got real wacky with
Well, that's
me.
scary. It gets scarier then, right? You go taking it to a different level. So it
Oh
gets,
yeah, and it's like I don't know, but I just know that I've been a super good friend to him, and I think the world of him, and I know he's just been very supportive to me in a lot of ways too. And I don't know, it's I'm willing to just open up more, and I think even me even saying that scared him.
well, that can be scary to somebody that might not be as used to being intimate, that deeper
Right.
intimacy with someone. And so it just might be aware of when he's triggered, and
Right.
just to kind of hold this, like you did, hold space until he gets more comfortable that they
Yeah.
have to learn how not to have it be as scary. Again, same thing I was saying, that if it were easy, we'd all do it. That
Yeah.
new way of being is very frightening. The more vulnerable we are, the more honest we are, is becomes more vulnerable. And so we have to be comfortable in our vulnerability. Anybody that listens to TED Talks, I highly recommend listening to Brene Brown's talk on vulnerability.
Okay.
I listen to it about once a year, and I always glean more out of it. It's a very good talk. It's like 18 minutes long, so it's definitely worth your while in listening. It's probably one of well, I don't listen to everything she ever does, so I don't know if it's the best one she's done, but it's been very impactful for me to listen to that one, and understanding our own vulnerability and getting comfortable with being vulnerable. Because
Right.
it's an oxymoron, using comfortable and vulnerable in the same sentence, right?
I know.
They don't seem to blend with each other, but yet for us to be our most authentic self, we also have to learn and to become comfortable with being vulnerable. So
Right.
highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've had a
You
lot.
can
I've
Google.
had a lot of emotions stirred up in the last few days with the completely different things.
Yeah, it's the times.
I guess it's clearing. Is that what the 222 thing is all about? Is that
Could
part of
be.
the clearing?
The 222. Yeah, well, I've been seeing a lot of 222s, so it's
Yeah,
about
it's
um
about healing and angels, and
mhm,
that's what all those numbers mean in the date for this month.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, well, I got something the other day that was like in the time, 2:22, okay. It's lots of reminders.
Mhm, mhm.
Yep, yep. So thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much, Cindy.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to ask or get some clearings on? Hmm. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop the recording.